Let's talk about this next opportunity for a little bit, the New York Jets. We're excited about getting back home, and I expect our guys not to blink and to continue to work. Man, they're really solid up front. Williams and Rankin are both former first-rounders. Wilson outside at receivers, another young guy whose role is emerging. We'll put together a plan highlighting the players available to us to get the business handled this week, and our business is winning.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. I'm Missi Matthews. As you saw, the Steelers are getting ready to host the New York Jets on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers have a 10-1 record in the city of Pittsburgh against the Jets, so let's break down what this matchup will look like for this year. From the DVE Morning Show and also Steelers.com, we have Mike Prisuta on hand. Also from the Steelers Radio Network, Craig Wolfley, he is comfy at home. Comfy and Wolfley, wow, I'm really losing it. And also his sidekick from SNR, Max Starks, is joining us from Arizona. And guys, let's talk about the Steelers defense and what they can do. It appears it's going to be Zach Wilson at quarterback. So Mike, what do they need to do to get to him and to kind of right the ship to hopefully get in the win column for week 4?
I'll tell you, I might sound a little singularly focused during this program, maybe a little obsessed, maybe sound like a one-trick pony, but they need to stop the run, okay? It didn't work out against the end, or at the end, I should say, of the New England game, and it really didn't work out at all in the Cleveland game. And I think if you're playing Zach Wilson, if you're playing Dan Marino, if you're playing anybody in between, you got to do a better job stopping the run. I think they're well aware of that. I think they've gone to great lengths to do that the last couple of weeks. We've seen some tweaks to the defense, different packages and different personnel in different spots. What we haven't seen is consistently stopping the run, and they got to get that changed to me first and foremost.
Well, if TJ Watt isn't coming to rescue the team this Sunday or next Sunday for that matter, so without him in this game, we've seen 2 games prior. What does the Steelers defense need to do differently that has not worked yet? Max, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing is going to be actually everybody trusting and comforting each other. As far as on the line of scrimmage, linebackers, understanding what the defensive linemen's assignments are and filling those gaps. I think Miles Jack has done a good job of that, of kind of figuring it out. But defensively, I kind of talked about this. Maybe because you're going to more 4-line, using more stunts, right? Kind of slanting into things as opposed to kind of playing things base up and allowing the backers to scrape over the top. I think start adding some of those run style, what we call blitzes and run style dogs with the linebackers. I think that could be something just to change it up, because guys are stout at the line at the point of attack for the most part, but it's when guys kind of fall off or they're trying to whip a block, they don't necessarily get to the right holes, and then it opens up gaps. And that's what we saw Thursday night against the Browns, and Nick Chubb exploited that because he's a very patient back. I don't think these backs for the Jets are as patient when you think of Michael Carter and Breece Hall and company. So with a Zach Wilson back there, he's going to want to lean heavy on the run. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to really try some things out.
And Wolf, it's probably fair to say Zach Wilson, if he does start on Sunday, he's going to be a little rusty. He has not played since the 2021 season in a real game.
Well, if and when Zach Wilson takes a snap on Sunday, it'll be 51 days since he faced a live rush and saw live go. So, yeah, I would think he's going to be a little rusty. I would think that he's going to have some issues. You remember that, if you don't have preseason, it's a little tough to go into regular season. And if you don't have a steady diet of regular season, it's even tougher to compete when you first get installed in there. So simply put, I look at this and I say, this is a great opportunity to show him looks that he's not familiar with. It's a great opportunity, like Max talked about, changing things up. Remember, this offensive line is already down 3 tackles that they were counting on. They're down to 2 guys who, between the 2 of them, have 11 starts. And one of the things I think is most important, Missy, is the stat you brought up earlier this week, and that the 180 minutes that the Jets have played, out of that 180 minutes, they've only been in the lead for 22 seconds. you got to jump on these guys and make them miserable from the get-go, because they're not used to being in the lead. They're not used to carrying the lead. And I think, simply put, it just could be something that would be very, very, very good.
Triv, Joe Flacco starting in replace of Wilson the first 3 games, 155 pass attempts. I think it's safe to say if Wilson goes, that's not going to be what they're going to do offensively this game.
I wouldn't think so. The Jets have run the ball well. They just haven't run it very often. They're well down in the rankings because the NFL grades rushing and passing offenses in yards per game, but they've got a 4.4 average per carry. I would think you'd want to try to protect Zach Wilson a little bit. Wolf alluded to New York being down to its number 4 and number 5 offensive tackles. One of those guys, Max Mitchell, the right tackle, is a rookie. So, yeah, and look what has gone on with the Steelers' defense, that Cleveland game and the end of the New England game. They have shown vulnerability against the run. I think the Jets would want to run the ball and get it to third and manageable as often as they could.
Max, Zach Wilson was sacked 44 times last season, 3rd most in the NFL. In terms of Alex Highsmith, who has been filling in for TJ Watt, trying to be part of that group, what can you expect from him on Sunday?
Well, I think when you're trying to generate the pass rush and trying to generate an opportunity for these guys, I mean, you look at, there is vulnerability on the edges. And I think the way that you move Cam Hayward around is indicative of that, to try and take advantage of mismatches. I think the prime guy is going to be Max Mitchell that they focus on. And I think sending Alex over there to go up against him, and then also trying Connor McDermott, the left tackle as well, and seeing where that inexperience is going to yield a profit, because you look at week 1, Cam Hayward, you line him up first snap against the rookie Cordell Volson, and you got a sack on the first play, and he got pressured the entire day. I think you have to do that, but it starts with stopping the line of scrimmage. Michael Carter's probably their leading guy. He averages about 92 yards from the line of scrimmage every game, whether that's passing and catching. So he's going to be your primary ball carrier and ball handler. I'm sure early on Zach Wilson's going to lean on him, but you stop him, put them in second and third and long situations. Now you can unleash that pass rush. Now you can get a little more creative. I don't think you necessarily have to blitz, because I don't think this offensive line is particularly good man on man. You could probably send some 4-man rushes and drop into zone and just force Zach Wilson to hesitate just a second or two, and that'll give you the extra time you need to really put him on the deck.
Yeah, the Jets' last game, Max, against Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson's pretty good edge rusher, but he came into that game with 0 sacks on the season. He exited that game with 2.5, couple of forced fumbles. There was another fumble that I thought, if the officials had seen it just a little bit differently, that might have been a fumble instead of an incompletion. So, yeah, pressure the edge, but to do that, you can't be in 3rd and 1, right? You can't be in 3rd and 2. But I don't think they have to do anything but come after those guys in situations that favor the defense, and it's got to be advantage Steelers. There just isn't the experience or the talent at tackle right now. The Jets are really stretched thin at that position.
Well, if the Steelers have historically, in terms of defense, had a good track record against young quarterbacks, in terms of not knowing what Wilson can do because we haven't seen much tape other than last season, what do you think the Steelers' best advantage will be going against him on Sunday?
Well, I think if you can sugar up some of the coverages, give him some different looks, try to get after him, put him in the dirt, get him a little bit frustrated, a little bit nervous, a little bit excited, do all those things. And simply put, it's showing him different looks that are going to keep him a little bit off balance. I mean, the guy has not had any real live go, not since, early August. He had surgery the 16th. So simply put, it's going to be giving this guy some different looks and putting the heat on him, making him have to beat you. And remember, this guy's mobility is big. Get up the field, rush shoulder high. Don't get ridden around the horn. Make sure that you get to the upper shoulder level, and then just constrict that pocket on him. And remember this, one of the things that's going to happen, this guy's going to be big on the scramble drill. He's going to try to stay alive and create that scramble drill, and you're going to have to work on that with plastering the coverage in your practices. But I think they can get after this guy and get after him in a big way.
All right, much more to talk about here on the Matchup Show, but first we want to show you your Week 4 opening lines from across the league presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app or visit pa.unibet.com. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Steelers offense, what they need to do to improve their time of possession and possession downs. We'll get into that when we return. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. All right, guys, let's talk about the Steelers offense. A ugly stat, worst in the NFL right now in time of possession. Triv, just a little bit over 24 minutes. Other than the obvious, sustained drives, keep the ball more. How do they actually go about doing that?
It really is pretty obvious, and I think it comes down to execution. You haven't seen them make any major changes on offense to this point, because I don't think you can point to one thing and say, well, this guy's the problem or doing this is the problem. I just want to give you 3 examples on third downs that stood out to me from that Cleveland game to give you an idea that, the variety of breakdowns that are occurring. 3rd and 5 from the Browns 41. That was a couple plays after the ineligible man downfield penalty in the third quarter. They tried to run a pick play to get Chase Claypool open in the flat, and George Pickens ended up hitting his guy into Chase Claypool, not the other defensive back. So that didn't work out as planned. Then you had a 3rd and 3 from the Steelers 32, a deep ball to Deontay Johnson. There it is right here. Now, Denzel Ward, a little grab action in there, as your good cornerbacks will do. But Deontay talked about that this week as a play. He's got to play better. And then late in the game, 3rd and 5 from inside Cleveland territory. This was before Chris Boswell's last field goal. A 3-man rush, and on the right side of the offensive line, 3 guys blocked one guy, and the other guy came in free and applied pressure to Trubisky, and he had to get rid of the ball quickly, and it was tougher for him to make a perfect throw to Pat Freiermuth. There you see the linebacker reaching in and getting a hand on it. So that's 3 different plays from 3 different spots on the field at 3 different points in the game, and something went wrong differently on each one. These are not plays that I think the Steelers are incapable of executing, but they have not consistently done that to this point. Clean up, hate to sound like a coach here, clean up the details, execute, repeat as necessary.
You know what's interesting though, Mike, is if you look at that, and on the second 3 and out that you were pointing out, the 3rd and 3 with Mitch Trubisky getting sacked, you're talking about double barrel A-gap blitzes. And what happens is he got beat, that being Najee got beat in the pickup on Jacob Phillips. But just a few series before that, or maybe in the first half, he had picked up Phillips on another rush, and he flipped them over like you ever see the Bulls running in Pamplona, Spain?
I have.
And one of those guys gets kind of de-pantsed by the Bulls in the arena.
Seen that too.
That's what Najee did to him. He flipped the guy over. He did it the first time, had a great pickup, but the second time he wasn't able to pick him up, and he got the sack on Trubisky.
Max, can communication be a part of this in terms of getting back to executing and cleaning up these plays, as both Triv and Wolf have said?
Well, I think communication is key, but it also comes down to, can a quarterback actually sight adjust and re-ID a mic and then try and get the coverage going that way? Because double barrel, I mean, if you have a propensity where you think that guy is going to come, you would go full slide and you'd cover up the A gaps, right? Because the middle of that pocket between the center and the guards, that's the depth of the pocket. I would rather keep that clean and allow the edges to be a little bit shaky on one side or the other. At least you know where it's coming from in the edges, and they have to come from a further distance. But when it's up in the middle like that, and you have Najee, who, like you said, picked up one, missed the second one. Jacob Phillips had a full head of steam on Najee and gave him a juke move. That's something that could have been cleaned up if you bring the right guard over and you just slide left on that type of situation. But this offense doesn't have those type of built-in things. So I think some of the communication is actually not built into it to communicate. And you kind of have to just go off of what's presented. What you see is what you get, and we have to block it that way. So I would love if they did some tweaks to that. But as of right now, I haven't seen that in the Canada system.
Wolf, in terms of the Steelers' run game, you saw some positives in that first half in Cleveland. What needs to carry over for Sunday?
Just the desire to whip the man in front of you. I mean, that's really where we're at. You look at what Pat Myers has done with this group. This group has gotten stronger week by week, and they're starting to be able to take a guy that's in that 3 gap where, you sit there in a 3 technique and you come off and you double team them and you move them. And it's about whipping the guy physically in front of you. And they did a better job of whipping some of those guys than they've done in the past. And I think the onus, and I think Max would agree with me just because we did similar stuff. The onus is on those guys up front to keep doing the physical things that they're doing, to keep making those improvements that they've made. What a great block that was by Mason. Mason Cole comes off and gets on one, then turns and gets back on the other. That's a good job of picking up on the inside zone stuff, and you got to keep doing the fundamentals over and over again. It's a wash, rinse, and repeat type of affair for the Hogs up front.
Yeah, great point, Wolf. And, you need that every week, but I think you need that in particular this week. This Jets defense is pretty aggressive from where I'm sitting. And they've got some players, and they like to come downhill and attack the ball. Now, New York has had one miscommunication, gimme touchdown against in each of the first 3 games. I don't know if you can count on that happening again. The Jets have probably been working feverishly to clean that stuff up. But it's a run and hit defense, so the Steelers better be prepared to play a physical game and run a little faster and hit a little harder.
Max, some home cooking. How much does that help going back to Acrisure Stadium on Sunday?
I think it helps. I mean, because when we talk about communication, like on the road, it's always tougher to communicate. It's always tougher to hear what the adjustments are, what some of the calls and plays are. I think being at home and then being able to create what I would like to see as a splash play, a big play early in the game, I think gets the crowd into it. And when you have the home crowd feeding you that energy, that always makes you want to play harder. You always want to do things a little bit better. And now that we're in week 4, which is the end of that first quarter of the season for us, it's even more imperative to come back home and show them what you learned when you went on the road. And I think this Steelers group was ready for that because the last outing wasn't so great. You didn't really get to wash that funk off of you of a loss. You went to Cleveland and lost to a bitter rival. So come home, and hopefully get one on the Jets, in this all-time series against the Jets, which is crazy. I was talking to Wolf about it earlier. The Steelers lead the series out of 24 meetings, 18-6. So this is a place, and the Jets don't historically do well in Acrisure or Heinz Field. So it'll be nice to just welcome them in. And then, it's Cam Kindness week. Continue to show them the kindness that we've always shown them. And that's a loss on their way out, and give them a nice little box lunch to go.
Shout out Cam Hayward. All right, guys, it's time now for our Yinz Chat predictive question for today. Who will have more receiving yards, Chase Claypool or George Pickens? If you want to play with us at home, download the Steelers mobile app and play Yinz Chat. Our questions are updated daily. Triv, which one are you taking? I'm
going to take George Pickens. He had the tremendous circus catch. That was a big play in Cleveland. Then there was a play in the second half where Mitch Trubisky tried to thread the needle to Chase Claypool over the middle. I thought the better option would have been Pickens open deep down the opposite seam. And then Pickens had the one ball in the end zone that went off his one hand. Play that he would probably consider himself capable of making. I think there is a continued emphasis to get George Pickens the ball, and I think he is too good to see what we've seen through the first 3 games in terms of the production not being nearly what we thought it would be coming out of Latrobe. So no offense to Chase Claypool, but if I had George Pickens on my fantasy team this week, I'd play him.
All right, Wolf, who are you taking?
Well, I got to go Chase Claypool. I've been waiting for this guy to have one of those monster games. And, last week against the Browns, one of the things I love, they brought him across in jet motion, only he blocked. He came across and blocked the guy and knocked him right on his keister. I think he's getting a little physical, getting a little frazzled and saying, get me the ball, baby. I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go with Chase Claypool. I think he's ready for some sort of big game.
All right, Max, break the tie. Who are you going with for Sunday?
I knew I was going to have to be the tiebreaker.
I should have let you go first. I'm sorry.
I know, right?
Next time.
All right. We're right here. George Pickens. All right, I'm going to break the tie. I'm going to go with George Pickens just because.
Good pick, SEC guy.
Yeah, exactly. It was tough for me. It was very tough. But I think the potential that's there with George Pickens and some of those deeper routes, the adjust. We saw these circus catches all preseason, and then we get one in season against the Browns. And I think you have to say, okay, 3 targets was not enough in New England, so they went after him a little bit more. I think now that target share starts to shift the needle in his direction, especially when we're looking for those splash and big plays that the Steelers need to really get the crowd into it. I think George Pickens early has a big splash play, and I think after that it breeds the confidence, and I think he'll have a pretty good day.
And guys, he's still getting a fair amount of one-on-one, correct? The
Yes.
doubles are still sliding to Deontay Johnson more often than not, are they not?
Correct.
It may change this weekend.
We shall see. Guys, thanks so much as always for your insight as we get ready for the Steelers and Jets at Acrisure Stadium. And thanks to everybody at home for watching the matchup show presented by Unibet. We'll see you next week.